Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today I've got a really powerful story for you, one that really hit home for me, and I think it will for you too. It's a journey of love, betrayal, and ultimately finding your true self. So get ready to dive deep, because this one's a raw and honest look at how even your closest kin can wound you and how you can come back stronger than ever. Let's get into it. It was unimaginable to me that my own kin could wound me in such profound ways. My name is Chloe Miller, and at the age of 28, I thought I had discovered my happily ever after with Noah Davis, the man I had been in a blissful relationship with for 3 remarkable years. My life had aligned seamlessly, resembling a flawless puzzle. An accomplished journey in marketing at a renowned company in Chicago, a stunning apartment with views of Lake Michigan, and a partner who gazed at me as if I were the embodiment of the moon and stars. On the day Noah chose to propose at the Lincoln Park Conservatory, enveloped by blooming roses and the sweet scent of summer enveloping me, I was convinced I possessed all that I had ever desired. After uttering my affirmative response, the very first person I reached out to was my sister Maya Miller. In spite of the complexities that defined our relationship during our formative years, I felt compelled to share this moment with her. Maya and I were merely 3 years apart. Maya was 25. Yet throughout our formative years, a subtle current of rivalry lingered beneath the surface, one I endeavored to overlook. 4 years ago, when she wed Ethan Hayes, I stood by her side, offering unwavering support as her maid of honor and assisting in the planning each nuance of her wedding. I anticipated a similar excitement from her when I revealed my news, yet there was an emptiness in her voice as she offered her congratulations. "That's wonderful, C. I'm so happy for you," she said, but her words felt devoid of genuine warmth. I dismissed the sensation, chalking it up to her hectic routine, juggling 2 young children alongside her career as a real estate agent. When we hosted our engagement party at my parents' suburban home, Maya arrived adorned in a striking red dress that felt more suited for a gala than a gathering of family. As she embraced me, she murmured, "Savor this moment, C. Engagements hold a magic that marriage often lacks." There was something in her voice that prompted me to withdraw and examine her expression, yet she swiftly smiled and turned to welcome other guests. As the evening unfolded, I observed her tendency to hover near Noah, her fingers brushing against his arm in laughter, her proximity just a fraction too intimate. As she extended the invitation to reveal the transformations in my parents' kitchen, they vanished from sight for almost 20 minutes. I made a promise to myself that I was exhibiting signs of paranoia. Ultimately, this was my sister, the one who had spent 16 years sharing a bedroom with me, privy to all my secrets and insecurities. Later that night, as Noah and I made our way home, he remarked on the intriguing nature of my sister. He remarked on Maya's remarkably distinct viewpoint on matters. "She shared with me tales from your childhood that were completely new to my ears." A tiny knot twisted in my stomach, yet I managed to nod and smile. That's Maya, ever the weaver of tales. Unbeknownst to me, this moment marked the initial unraveling of what would ultimately lead to the total collapse of my happiness. Throughout our childhood, I maintained a deep-seated trust in my sister, even amidst the rivalry that often defined our relationship. In our childhood, whenever I received a new doll, Maya would weep until she had one of her own. If I achieved a spot on the honor roll, she would dedicate countless nights to studying, striving to match my academic success. Yet here we stood as adults, and I was convinced we had transcended those petty jealousies of our youth. As I surrendered to the embrace of slumber that night, Noah's arm encircled my waist. I set aside the faint whisper cautioning me that something was amiss. In retrospect, I realize I ought to have heeded that inner voice. I ought to have noticed the sparkle in Maya's eyes as she gazed at my engagement ring. Her smile, though bright, never fully illuminated her eyes as she offered her congratulations. Yet I found myself enveloped in the warmth of my own joy, clinging to the conviction that familial bonds would forever outweigh all else. Little did I know that my own sister was secretly scheming to strip away everything I cherished, all because she couldn't bear the sight of my happiness. The weeks that came after our engagement unfolded like a tempest of exhilaration and meticulous preparation. I meticulously curated Pinterest boards brimming with wedding inspiration, scheduled consultations with florists and caterers, and dedicated countless hours to exploring potential venues. Noah and I have chosen to celebrate our union in the spring, allowing us nearly a year to meticulously orchestrate every detail. I invited Maya to take on the role of my maid of honor, with the hope that this journey would deepen our connection. She accepted with an air of authentic enthusiasm. As we delved into the intricacies of wedding preparations, I began to observe subtle indications of her dissatisfaction. "Do you truly wish to choose roses?" she would remark on their prevalence. "Doesn't that venue appear a tad ambitious for your budget? Wouldn't you agree?" Every remark was accompanied by a grin, yet each one stung like a delicate slice of paper. Each one may seem trivial, yet together they create a profound ache. I coordinated for her to accompany me to my inaugural wedding dress fitting at a chic boutique nestled in River North, Chicago. My mother and two dearest friends joined me, and at first the ambiance was filled with joy and encouragement. I donned a variety of gowns prior to discovering one that left everyone in awe. A breathtaking off-shoulder satin gown adorned with intricate beading and a sweeping cathedral train. As I stood upon the pedestal, tears began to gather in my eyes, drawn forth by the sight of my own reflection. Maya glided over, a glass of champagne in hand, courtesy of the boutique's generous offering. The events that unfolded next appeared to be nothing more than a mere accident. She stumbled just a bit, causing the champagne to cascade down the front of the immaculate white gown. The boutique staff hurriedly attended to the mess as Maya expressed her sincere apologies. "I often find myself tripping over my own feet. These heels are utterly unmanageable," she uttered, appearing utterly dismayed. Yet, there was an incongruity in her expression that belied her words. A sudden glimmer caught the eye. Before the apology arrived, I reassured her that it was all right, that mishaps occur, yet the moment had been irrevocably tarnished. As we exited the boutique, my mother took a moment to draw me aside. "How peculiar," she murmured. "Maya has always moved with grace, never once stumbling through her days." For 12 years, she danced as a ballerina. I dismissed it, reluctant to attribute any ill will to what might have simply been an honest mistake. That evening, as I sat quietly, I shared the dress shopping experience with Noah, carefully omitting the champagne incident from my narrative. A part of me resisted the idea of him forming a negative impression of my sister. Or perhaps I was reluctant to confront the unsettling notion that she had acted with intent. At the age of 16, the vivid recollections of our childhood surged into my thoughts as I was chosen for a distinguished summer art program. Maya had inadvertently doused my portfolio in coffee the evening prior to its submission deadline. I had spent the entire night meticulously recreating my fragments, and my fatigue had manifested in the ultimate creations. I cast the memory aside, reminding myself that we had grown into adulthood. During the upcoming weekend, we explored possible venues, and I extended an invitation to Maya to accompany us. As the day unfolded, she drew delicate parallels between the sites we explored and the venue where she had exchanged vows. The reception at the Grand Millennial exuded an air of elegance. These locations appear pleasant as well, albeit in a more relaxed manner. Every remark highlighted the sophistication and elaborateness of her wedding. On several occasions, I observed her observing Ethan and Noah as they engaged in conversation about their careers, her gaze sharp and analytical. Ethan navigated the corridors of middle management at an insurance company, while Noah ascended the ranks as a promising talent at a software development firm. Neither faced hardship, yet it was evident that Noah's path was distinctly more ascendant. Ethan asserts that the tech bubble is destined to burst once more. During lunch, Maya expressed the belief that software jobs pose a risk as long-term investments. Noah offered a courteous smile, yet I noticed the tension in his jaw. Across the expanse of the venue during the tours, I observed how Maya would abruptly intervene, drawing Noah away from me to solicit his thoughts on various matters or to dominate his focus with inquiries about his job. With every private conversation, he appeared increasingly withdrawn in the moments that followed. Later that evening, after I had seen Maya home, I inquired of Noah about the conversation they had shared. "Merely matters pertaining to the wedding," he remarked with a hint of ambiguity. She inquired about my family. There was an unsettling quality to his tone that left me feeling uneasy. Yet, when I pressed further, he maintained that all was well. As we pressed on with our planning, my mother observed the escalating tension. Perhaps it would be wise to restrict Maya's participation. She proposed softly. Her presence appears to generate more tension than relief. I sprang to my sister's defense without hesitation. She is making an effort to assist. Moreover, she is my soul sister. It is essential to incorporate her. My mother regarded me with a lingering gaze. At times, embodying the greater spirit involves safeguarding your own well-being, Chloe. I brushed aside her worry, resolute in my quest to maintain the facade of sisterly unity I had long desired. In spite of my endeavors, a seed of uncertainty had taken root, and I found myself struck by how Maya's constant willingness to assist often cast a shadow of inadequacy over me, while Noah appeared to drift further away. Nevertheless, I forged ahead with the wedding preparations, extending an invitation to her for every appointment and consultation, believing that her involvement would quell any jealousy that might be simmering beneath the surface. With unwavering resolve, I envisioned my ideal wedding, my sister standing beside me every step of the way. Even as the ominous signals persisted in their relentless display around me. As the months slipped by and our wedding date approached, Maya's demeanor grew more and more troubling. What began as subtle jabs regarding my decisions transformed into something far more malevolent. She started to probe into Noah's dedication to me, sowing seeds of uncertainty that flourished even as I tried to dismiss them. Yesterday, I observed Noah sharing a meal with his colleague Ashley. She remarked nonchalantly at a gathering for the bridesmaids. They appeared quite at ease with one another as I clarified that Ashley was a member of Noah's development team and that they frequently shared working lunches. Maya arched her brows in surprise. What I'm expressing is that they were giggling heartily. It appeared to me as anything but work. She concluded the conversation, yet her words echoed in my thoughts. Following that lunch, I caught myself glancing at Noah's phone as it lay unattended on the coffee table, only to be engulfed by a wave of shame for my lingering doubts. What was even more concerning was the slow transformation in Noah's demeanor. He grew more reserved during family gatherings, particularly in the company of Maya. Whenever I inquired if anything was amiss, he would respond that he was merely fatigued or absorbed in his work, yet his gaze would flicker toward my sister. Before my gaze shifted at my cousin's birthday celebration, I observed Maya weaving her way between Noah and me as the evening unfolded. She frequently interjected into our discussions, calling on Noah to assist her with drinks or to clarify aspects of his job for another family member. As the night drew to a close, we found ourselves having shared scarcely 10 minutes in each other's company. In the week that followed, I received a call from my college friend Brianna. "Chloe, is all well with you and Noah?" she inquired with a hint of uncertainty. When I reassured her that everything was all right, she hesitated before persevering. "Maya confided in me that you both have been facing some challenges lately." Her expression conveyed a deep sense of concern. I was utterly astonished. Noah and I experienced our usual disagreements, yet we were not navigating a difficult phase. As I confronted Maya about this matter, her eyes brimmed with tears. "I'm simply concerned for you, see," she murmured, her voice trembling. "It appears that you have been under a considerable amount of stress recently. Noah has been putting in such long hours. I just want you to be happy." Her performance was so compelling that I found myself expressing my regrets for confronting her, assuring her that all was well between Noah and me. Later that evening, I attempted to talk about the incident with Noah, but he appeared preoccupied and irritable. "Why does it matter what Maya says to your friends?" he asked. "It's just gossip." His dismissive tone caught me off guard. When I pressed for a deeper response, he retorted that he was weary of discussing my sister constantly. It marked our first genuine argument in months, leaving me with a sense of emptiness and bewildered. As the weeks unfolded, Noah's demeanor shifted, becoming more withdrawn. He began to stay at the office longer, occasionally returning home only after I had drifted into slumber. When he did arrive, a heavy silence enveloped him, his mind seemingly elsewhere, often absorbed in his laptop instead of engaging with me. One evening, I proposed a weekend getaway to rekindle our connection, but he brushed it off, citing an overwhelming workload. My unease deepened, yet I struggled to identify the source of my distress. Those weekends that once brimmed with leisurely mornings and brunch unfolded into silent stretches of time, where we orbited each other without genuine connection. During a family dinner, I excused myself to the bathroom and caught a snippet of conversation between Maya and Noah in the hallway. "Chloe doesn't need to know," Maya whispered. "It would only hurt her." As I rounded the corner, their words faded into silence, and Maya greeted me with a bright smile. "There you are. Mom's about to serve dessert." When I inquired later about the nature of their conversation, Noah asserted it was a surprise for me, yet his gaze avoided mine. The next week at my bridal shower, I caught two of my cousins in hushed conversation. "Poor Chloe," one remarked. "She has no idea." As I drew closer, they swiftly shifted topics, their smiles overly broad and their tones unnaturally bright. When I inquired with Maya about their chatter, she pretended not to know. "You know how people love to gossip," she said with a casual air. "Don't let it get to you." Yet it did trouble me. It felt as though everyone around me was privy to a secret I remained unaware of. As I delved deeper into my thoughts, the more I endeavored to grasp the unfolding events, the deeper my sense of isolation became. Even those I considered my closest friends started to regard me in a different light. Their embraces lingered just a moment too long, their gazes brimming with an unsettling resemblance to pity. The breaking point arrived at my bachelorette party, an event that Maya had fervently taken charge of organizing. Upon our arrival at the restaurant for dinner, we were met with the unexpected presence of Noah's ex-girlfriend, Ashley. It seems that Maya extended an invitation as a delightful surprise. "Were you both friends back in college?" Maya inquired with a sense of naivety as I drew her away from the crowd. I believed it would be lovely to have her included. Ashley and I had never shared a friendship. Their breakup had indeed been tumultuous, with Noah explicitly stating his desire to sever all ties with her. The evening hung heavy with awkwardness, as Ashley repeatedly alluded to her past with Noah and their once shared dreams of relocating to New York together. Upon my return home the following day, I found Noah to be even more reclusive than he had been previously. When I inquired if we could discuss whatever was on our minds, he replied, "Not now, Chloe. I need some space." That night, I nestled into bed, a heavy weight in my chest, sensing I was slipping away from him without grasping the reason. A shadow loomed over our relationship, and I found myself increasingly convinced that my own sister might be the source of this toxicity. As the countdown to our wedding reached a mere 3 months, the circumstances took a turn for the worse with alarming speed. Noah, who once radiated warmth and connection, had transformed into an unfamiliar presence within our household. He began to spend his nights at his friend Liam's apartment, asserting that he required solitude to concentrate on a significant project labor. In the moments he returned home, his words were few and far between, leaving a silence that lingered between us. Whenever I attempted to reach out to him, whether it was merely grasping his hand or offering a hug, he would tense up or concoct a reason to distance himself. The chasm that lay between us seemed unbridgeable, leaving me at a loss for how to connect once more. One evening, as Noah stood under the cascading water of the shower, his phone illuminated with a text message from Maya. I had never considered myself the sort to pry into others' affairs. Yet, in that moment of urgency, my principles were eclipsed by desperation. The message stated, "Have you informed her yet? This situation cannot continue indefinitely. She has the right to be aware of the truth." My hands trembled as I set the phone down on the table once more. What truth? What had Maya and Noah been whispering about in the shadows? When Noah stepped out of the bathroom, I seized the moment to confront him about the messages. His complexion faded, yet rather than offer an explanation, he turned the tables, accusing me of breaching his privacy. "I can't believe you're going through my phone now," he exclaimed, his voice rising. "This is precisely what I've been warned to anticipate." Warned by whom? I found myself pondering. Yet, before I could voice my curiosity, Noah seized his keys in hand and exited the apartment. The following day, I faced Maya head-on. "What have you been texting Noah about?" I insisted during our lunch together. Maya's expression was a flawless facade of worry. "He has found himself perplexed by certain matters, Chloe. I'm merely attempting to assist him in navigating through everything. As your sister, I feel a sense of duty to ensure that you're both choosing wisely." Her ambiguous reply ignited my frustration, yet when I pressed for clarity, she merely patted my hand. "It's not my role to elaborate. Noah should be the one to reach out to you." That evening, I attempted to call a few friends to sort through my bewilderment, only to find that many of them appeared to have some prior knowledge of a situation concerning my relationship. My college roommate Sarah was especially vague. "I believe you should speak with Noah directly," she said, her tone uneasy. "Or perhaps Maya can clarify things more effectively." The mention of my sister's name triggered a wave of concern. What was going on with Maya, positioned as an authority on my relationship? The following weekend, my bridal shower unfolded at my parents' home, a delightful affair orchestrated by my mother and Maya. As I mingled with the guests, I became acutely aware of the pitying glances and the hushed conversations that fell silent upon my arrival. During the gift opening, I caught my Aunt Carol whispering to another relative, her words laced with concern. "I don't know how she's holding it together with everything that's happening." When I inquired about her comment, both women flushed and stammered something about the wedding stress enveloped the atmosphere. Throughout the event, Maya embodied the supportive sister with remarkable finesse. She remained steadfast by my side, orchestrated the games with infectious enthusiasm, and delivered a heartfelt speech that resonated with everyone present, expressing her love for me. To any observer, she was the quintessential maid of honor. However, an unsettling feeling lingered within me, as if she were performing for an audience while subtly undermining my position behind the scenes. Later, as guests began to depart, I drew Maya into our father's study. "What have you been telling people about me and Noah?" I inquired, my tone direct. Her eyes widened with an air of feigned innocence. "Nothing, Chloe. Why would you think that?" Before I could reply, my mother summoned me for assistance in the kitchen, and Maya quietly slipped away. The next week ushered in another unsettling turn of events. As I perused our shared calendar to verify wedding arrangements, I stumbled upon a lunch appointment Noah had set with my former boss, Mr. Peterson, a man I had parted ways with under less than favorable circumstances due to his inappropriate advances. When I confronted Noah about it, he appeared genuinely perplexed. "Maya mentioned that you wanted me to meet with him to efforts to mend the situation before the wedding were underway. She mentioned it was crucial for you to have him present." I had never expressed such a sentiment, nor would I ever wish for Mr. Peterson to be part of our wedding. When I reached out to Maya for clarification, she insisted there had been a mix-up and vowed to discuss it with Noah. The ultimate disappointment struck during what was meant to be a joyous occasion, my bachelorette weekend in Nashville. Maya had taken charge of all the planning, assuring me of a soothing getaway with my dearest friends. The first troubling sign emerged upon our arrival at the hotel, where I learned that Maya had not only invited Noah's ex-girlfriend, Ashley, but had also arranged for us to share a room. The bookings had been mixed up, Maya explained, her apologetic smile failing to reach her eyes. "It's just for 2 nights, she assured me. "I'm sure you two can get along." Throughout the weekend, Ashley incessantly alluded to her past with Noah, particularly emphasizing how she had let him go due to his lack of readiness for commitment. What troubled me even more were the messages from Noah questioning my decision to invite Ashley and hinting at secrets I had yet to share. It was evident that Maya had been weaving her own narrative, crafting a tangled web of doubt and mistrust among us. Upon my return home, I found that Noah had already relocated most of his belongings to Liam's place. "I need time to think," he stated coldly when I implored him for a conversation. "This isn't what I signed up for, Chloe." That night, I found myself weeping in solitude within the confines of our apartment room, the flickering light casting shadows that mirrored the turmoil within me. Wedding invitations lay scattered around, a stark reminder of the joy that now felt like a distant memory. Confusion enveloped me as I tried to piece together the fragments of my once perfect relationship, now unraveling before my eyes. It was becoming painfully evident that my sister was entangled in this chaos, her actions wreaking havoc on the future I had envisioned with the man I adored. Just a month before what was meant to be the pinnacle of happiness, everything crumbled. I stepped inside, my heart heavy, to find Noah waiting, the atmosphere thick with unspoken words in the living room. A manila envelope lay on the coffee table before him. His expression was a blend of anguish and fury, eyes rimmed with red as if tears had recently flowed. "We need to talk, Chloe," he uttered, his voice echoing with emptiness. "I can't do this anymore." My heart raced within my chest as I faced him, the coffee table between us feeling like an insurmountable divide. Noah nudged the envelope toward me, his fingers trembling. "Open it," he urged. I extracted several printed pages, revealing screenshots of text messages allegedly exchanged between me and someone named Tyler. Arranging clandestine meetings at hotels, trading suggestive messages, and strategizing ways to prevent Noah from discovering the truth. There were also images unmistakably depicting someone with my hair and physique entering hotel rooms with an unknown man. "I didn't do this," I murmured, my voice trembling. "Noah, these are fabricated. I've never been unfaithful to you. I don't even know anyone named Tyler." Noah's laughter was laced with bitterness. "That's what Maya predicted you'd say. She cautioned me months ago that you were concealing something, but I refused to believe it. Trust her, she urged. Then she revealed the initial messages. A chill coursed through me. The first messages? How long have you been aware of these? His response shattered me. Since 3 months after our engagement, Maya approached me in confidence. She expressed her inner conflict about whether to inform me, but she couldn't bear to witness me marry someone unfaithful. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. His increasing aloofness, the emotional gap, the nights away from home. Noah had been convinced I was the one betraying him. A relentless flow of deceit had taken root, fabricated evidence by my own sister. None of this is real, I pleaded, tears cascading down my cheeks. Maya concocted it all. You must believe me. Yet Noah had been swayed against me for far too long. I wanted to, he said, rising to his feet. God, Chloe, I wanted to believe you were the person I thought you were. But the evidence is overwhelming. Maya has been right about everything. He retrieved a small velvet box from his pocket, the ring I had entrusted to him each night while I slept. The wedding's off. I had already reached out to my family and closest friends. You ought to do the same. With that, he exited, leaving me grasping at the fabricated evidence of betrayals I had never committed. In a haze of shock and devastation, I made my way to Maya's house, the envelope of false accusations resting on the passenger seat. When she opened the door, her gaze fell upon my tear-streaked face, and she enveloped me in a comforting embrace. "Oh, see, what's wrong?" she asked, her voice laced with worry. I withdrew from her embrace and raised the envelope. "You did this," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Despite the storm raging inside me, you created these fake texts and photos. You've been poisoning Noah against me for months." For a moment, shock registered on Maya's face before her features settled into practiced sympathy. "Chloe, you're upset and looking for someone to blame." Noah showed me those messages too. I didn't want to believe it either, but the evidence is pretty clear. Her performance was flawless. The concerned sister, heartbroken for me, but unable to deny the truth. I searched her eyes for any glimmer of guilt or remorse, but found only a cool calculation behind her mask of sympathy. "Why would you do this?" I asked, my voice breaking. "What did I ever do to you that was so terrible you needed to destroy my happiness?" Maya's expression hardened slightly. "You're not thinking straight, Chloe. I've only ever wanted what's best for you. If Noah believes you cheated, maybe there were problems in your relationship you weren't seeing." As I stood there in her perfectly decorated foyer, it served as a stark reminder of the chasm between us. I understood then that reaching her was futile. She would never own up to her actions, nor would she recognize the havoc she had unleashed. Departing from her home, I felt an isolation deeper than I had ever known. In the days that followed, the reality of Maya's treachery unfolded before me. Many of our friends and family had already been fed a narrative that painted me as the antagonist. The unfaithful fiancé ensnared in her deceit, my mother lamented. Her tone laden with disappointment hung heavy in the air. "I raised you better than this, Chloe," she said, her voice laced with hurt. "How could you hurt Noah this way?" No amount of protest could sway her belief in the fabricated evidence. My father was rendered speechless, sending only a text that read, "Need time to process this. We will reach out when we are prepared." Friends I had known for years suddenly had excuses for why they couldn't meet for coffee or return my calls. The isolation was complete and devastating. Every night, I went to sleep in the apartment that had once been filled with love and laughter now linger in an unsettling silence, a void left by Noah's absence. I reached out time and again, crafting emails that meticulously outlined the reasons the evidence must be fabricated, dialing his number until he finally blocked me, even standing outside his office one day, desperate for him to hear me. Yet my efforts were in vain. He had held on to the belief of my betrayal for so long that no words could sway him. As the days dragged on, I found myself sinking deeper into despair. I contacted the wedding vendors to cancel everything, each conversation reopening a wound as I explained that there would be no wedding. I boxed up gifts that had already arrived, writing apology notes to include when I returned them. One afternoon, I found myself sitting on the floor of what would have been our future home office, surrounded by the shattered pieces of the life we had planned, wondering how everything had gone so wrong. In that moment of utter despair, I questioned whether I had somehow deserved this betrayal. Had I been a bad sister to Maya growing up? Had I taken Noah for granted? Was there something about me that could render me so fundamentally unlovable that my own sister would seek to obliterate my happiness? The wedding date arrived and departed, leaving me solitary in my apartment, blinds drawn, phone silenced, a half-empty bottle of wine my sole companion. I had reached the depths of despair. The most agonizing aspect was my lingering confusion over Maya's actions. What could I have possibly done to warrant such calculated cruelty from someone who shares my blood? For 2 weeks following the cancellation of the wedding, I barely managed to function. I called in sick to work, ignored my ringing phone, subsisting on delivery food, and whatever I could scavenge from my pantry. The blinds remained drawn, and I drifted between my bed and the couch like a specter haunting my own existence. Sleep evaded me, and when it finally arrived, it brought dreams of Noah and Maya, their laughter echoing as they pointed at imagined accusations, their faces contorted with a cruel delight. On the 15th day of my self-imposed seclusion, a relentless knocking at my door pierced through the haze. It was Jessica, a colleague from work who had evolved into a friend over the years, though not someone I would have classified as part of my inner circle. "Your boss asked me to check on you," she explained, stepping past me into the apartment. "Everyone's worried." I began to offer her the polished version of events, that Noah and I had parted ways, that the wedding was off, but she interrupted me. "I know what happened, Chloe. At least I know what people are saying happened, but something doesn't add up." Jessica had always been insightful, and unlike my closer friends, she had little connection to Maya. As we talked, she revealed something that made my heart stop. "I ran into Tiffany last week," she said, referring to one of Maya's friends whom I had met a few times at family events. "She was pretty drunk at this bar downtown, and she was talking about how clever your sister is, how she finally put you in your place." After years of being in your shadow, Jessica's words were like a lifeline thrown to a drowning person. Someone else suspected the truth. I wasn't unbelievable. As the hours unfolded, Jessica assisted me in unraveling the tangled web of events. She had confronted Tiffany for specifics, and in her tipsy haze, Maya's companion had divulged far too much. It turned out that Maya had orchestrated this betrayal for months, meticulously crafting false evidence and presenting it to Noah while simultaneously sowing discord among our circle. The astonishing part was that Tiffany appeared to believe it was warranted. Jessica's voice dripped with disdain as she spoke, as if Maya had somehow earned this fate, to destroy your joy due to her envy. More significantly, Jessica had persuaded Tiffany to send her a collection of messages exchanged between herself and Maya that confirmed the events. In one especially incriminating conversation, Maya had stated, "It worked. Noah has decided to cancel the wedding. At long last, Chloe is receiving the recognition she has long been denied after enduring years of others' misguided perceptions of her flawless nature." With this evidence in hand, I reached out to Noah once more, sharing screenshots of the messages exchanged between Maya and Tiffany. His reply was succinct and overwhelming. "I refuse to be entangled in the complexities of your family drama any longer. I kindly ask that you honor my choice and proceed forward." The words struck with the weight of finality, sealing the fate of our relationship. Despite the evidence of Maya's deceit, he remained steadfast in his unwillingness to rethink his stance. His rejection compelled me to confront a harsh reality. Regardless of whether Maya had orchestrated our downfall, Noah had chosen to embrace the darkest narrative about me, denying me the opportunity to truly defend my character. Our subsequent meeting with Maya took place at my nephew's birthday celebration. I had nearly chosen to forgo the event, yet my therapist urged me to start reclaiming my role within the family. Throughout the party, Maya embodied the essence of a caring sister, sharing knowing looks and soft touches on my arm whenever the gaze of other family members fell upon us. "How are you managing?" she would inquire. Her voice was finely tuned to express genuine concern. Yet in the moments when the world turned away, a different spark flickered within her gaze, a flicker of contentment, a faint grin that sent shivers down my spine. I held on to my composure throughout the party. The experience drained me, leaving a lingering sense of exhaustion and anger. The betrayal transcended the mere loss of Noah. This realization illuminated how the dynamic with Maya had shaped our relationship from the very beginning. Every achievement of mine was greeted with envy, each joy accompanied by bitterness. The pattern revealed itself with such clarity that I found it hard to fathom how I had overlooked it for so long. In a fervent bid to break free from the suffocating atmosphere, I resolved to embark on the journey to Italy that was originally meant to be my honeymoon. The passes, the idea of meandering through the streets of Florence, Italy, even in solitude, felt far more appealing than remaining in Chicago, engulfed by the remnants of my existence. My parents expressed their concerns, anxious about my solo journey given my emotional turmoil, yet I craved the separation, both in body and spirit, to embark on my path to healing. The initial days in Florence unfolded like a haze of sorrow and indulgent room service. Yet, slowly, the allure of the city started to seep into my sorrow. I compelled myself to step outside, exploring the Colosseum, the Vatican, along with innumerable piazzas. While exploring the Roman Forum on a guided tour, I encountered Victoria Vicky Sterling, an American business executive in her 50s who was visiting Italy for a conference. Her confident demeanor and sharp intelligence captivated me, leading to an evening spent together over dinner. With each sip of wine, I discovered myself unraveling my thoughts to her, sharing every secret that lingered in the depths of my mind. Noah, Maya, the canceled wedding, everything, rather than the sympathy I had grown accustomed to. Vicky absorbed the conversation with keen curiosity, interjecting with questions from time to time, questions for clarification. Upon completing my tale, her reaction took me aback. "Your sister did you a favor?" she remarked, pouring more wine into my glass. She illuminated the truth about those in your life who truly matter and those who do not. Leaning in closer, her gaze was piercing. "The real question now is how you will act on this newfound clarity." As the days of my trip unfolded, Vicky took on the role of a mentor. She urged me to imagine a life reconstructed solely on my own terms, free from the weight of toxic connections. Others and their expectations loomed large. As the CEO of a thriving marketing analytics firm, she saw the spark of my professional potential and urged me to contemplate a career shift. "You're talented, Chloe. Too talented to remain confined in a mid-level role at a company that fails to appreciate innovation." On my final evening in Italy, Vicky presented me with an unexpected opportunity, an introduction to her friend who managed a burgeoning digital marketing agency in Chicago. "They seek someone with exactly your skill set." It would entail a risk indeed. Though it was smaller than my previous firm, the potential for growth was staggering. For the first time since my world had crumbled, a flicker of excitement about the future ignited within me. I returned to Chicago with a newfound clarity that had eluded me before. The apartment that Noah and I had once shared felt stifling, prompting me to break the lease and seek a cozier space in a different neighborhood. I erased his number from my phone, unfriended him on social media, and tucked away any remnants of our relationship. It wasn't about obliteration. It was about crafting an environment for the possibilities that lay ahead. The conversation with Vicky's contact unfolded more favorably than anticipated. And in just 2 weeks, I found myself stepping into the role of Director of Client Strategy at Vertex Digital, a boutique agency focused on emerging markets. This new position brought with it greater responsibilities than my former role, a substantial salary boost, and equity options, a testament that revitalized my fractured self-esteem. Above all, I faced a challenging yet essential choice concerning Maya. After considerable reflection and numerous discussions with my therapist, I composed a succinct email to my sister, conveying my need for distance in our relationship. I refrained from placing blame, understanding that there was little value in allowing her the chance to refute my feelings. Instead, I articulated my awareness of the unhealthy dynamics at play and my necessity to prioritize my own well-being. Her reply, as expected, was steeped in self-righteousness, casting herself as the victim of my supposed unfairness and emotional turmoil. I chose not to respond. As summer gracefully yielded to fall, I found myself deeply engaged in the process of constructing my new existence. The ache lingered, yet it had metamorphosed into a quiet resolve to forge something more fulfilling than what I had once cherished. For the first time, I was not merely an extension of my connection with Noah or my competition with Maya. I was simply Chloe Miller, embarking on a journey of self-discovery, unencumbered by the need to satisfy others. My return from Italy, imbued with fresh insights, marked merely the inception of my transformation. With Vicky's newfound direction, I had landed a role that both challenged and invigorated me. Yet, the true journey of reconstructing my life was just commencing. My inaugural day at Vertex Digital established the framework for my refreshed outlook. I arrived ahead of schedule, clad in a sharp black suit that exuded a confidence I was still cultivating, and plunged eagerly into grasping the nuances of my new position. The company embodied all that Vicky had assured: dynamic, swift, and populated by imaginative individuals who evaluated me solely on my contributions and dedication, rather than on hearsay or preconceptions lingered in the air. For the first time in months, I navigated an entire day free from thoughts of Noah or Maya. The distance I had carved from my sister proved challenging to uphold. My parents grappled with the reasons behind my refusal to join family dinners whenever Maya was invited, urging me to reconcile for the sake of familial harmony. After a series of tense discussions, I finally gathered the courage to sit them down and reveal the text messages Jessica had acquired from Tiffany. The revelation left them speechless, caught in a moment of stunned silence. And while they didn't immediately sever connections with Maya, as I had secretly wished, they did cease their insistence on reconciliation. "We love both our daughters," my father said, his voice laden with disappointment. Yet what Maya did was beyond forgiveness. "Take all the time you need, Chloe." The conversation wasn't flawless, but it marked a step forward. With the burden of maintaining appearances lifted, I could concentrate on crafting my new life. I settled into a sun-drenched apartment in Wicker Park, a neighborhood I had always adored, yet Noah deemed it overly hipster. I adorned it precisely to my liking. Vibrant hues, an assortment of furniture, and an abundance of greenery. Each choice, from the azure velvet couch to the Moroccan-themed bedroom, was solely mine. There was a deeply restorative quality in crafting a space that mirrored my unique tastes and inclinations. My therapist, Dr. Martinez, guided me through the intricate feelings tied to Maya's treachery. What your sister did exposes her struggles, not yours. She reiterated during our weekly sessions, a profound realization emerged. Those who find security and happiness within themselves do not seek to diminish the joy of others. As I delved deeper into our shared experiences, it became evident that Maya's behavior had remained unchanged over the years. The jealousy, the competition, the quiet undermining that I had often brushed aside or overlooked. I was also faced with a disquieting truth about my own actions. I had inadvertently supported her behavior by constantly attempting to ease tensions, by downplaying my own achievements to prevent inciting her envy, and by crafting justifications for her actions. Disrupting this cycle required me to set clear boundaries, not only with Maya, but also with anyone who failed to acknowledge my value. At work, I dedicated myself to validating Vicky's trust in me. My initial significant project centered around crafting a marketing strategy for a tech startup. As I ventured into the fiercely competitive healthcare sector, the stakes were high, yet I relished the challenge, often working late into the night, delving into market trends and analyzing competitor strategies. When I unveiled my insights to the client, their enthusiasm not only affirmed my professional skills, but also justified my choice to embrace this risk. "This is precisely what we needed," the founder exclaimed, shaking my hand with fervor. "You've provided us with a roadmap we can genuinely pursue." This success opened the door to more demanding assignments and increased responsibilities. 6 months into my new position, I received an invitation to represent Vertex at a digital marketing conference in San Francisco. The old Chloe would have quaked at the thought of such exposure. But now I welcome the chance. The conference demonstrated to serve as a pivotal moment in numerous respects. In the midst of a panel discussion focused on the latest trends in consumer engagement, I posed a question that piqued the interest of one of the speakers, Daniel Dan Walsh, the founder and CEO of Innovate Media, a firm celebrated for its avant-garde strategies in digital marketing. Following the panel, he made a point to find me and extend our dialogue. Dan was a remarkable individual, possessing brilliance yet exuding humility, confidence without a trace of arrogance, and a sincere curiosity about my perspectives. Our discussion about the intersection of AI and consumer behavior flowed seamlessly from coffee into dinner, creating an atmosphere rich with intellectual stimulation. It was the most engaging conversation I had experienced in years. For the first time since Noah, I sensed a spark of connection with someone. As we prepared to part ways, Dan shared his plans to expand Innovate's presence in the Midwest and mentioned he would be in Chicago the following month. "I'd like to continue our conversation," he said, handing me his card. "Your insights on predictive analytics are intriguing." I was unsure whether his interest lay in the professional realm, the personal sphere, or perhaps a blend of both. Yet I found myself eagerly anticipating our next encounter. Upon returning to Chicago, my journey of self-discovery unfolded in tandem with my career advancement. I enrolled in a mixed martial arts gym, uncovering an unexpected sense of fulfillment in the rigorous physical and mental discipline it demanded. I also ventured into a pottery class, rekindling a creative passion I had long set aside. New friendships blossomed, with individuals unaware of my past connections to Noah or Maya. People who embraced me in my entirety, free from any preconceived notions or biases. The most surprising twist unfolded 3 weeks post-conference, when an email from Jessica landed in my inbox. She had been one of the rare ties to my former existence, meeting me sporadically for coffee and catch-ups. Her message included a screenshot of a social media post from Maya, lamenting Ethan's stagnant career and their financial woes following a botched investment. Thought you might find this intriguing, Jessica noted. It seems the ideal life isn't so perfect anymore. A complex mix of emotions washed over me. A fleeting sense of satisfaction was swiftly followed by guilt for finding pleasure in my sister's struggles. It served as a poignant reminder that my journey of self-improvement was far from complete. To be genuinely free from the toxic dynamics, I needed to refrain from engaging with them, even from afar. When Dan arrived in Chicago, as he had promised, we convened for dinner at an elegant restaurant with a view of the river. What I had anticipated as a professional conversation soon unfolded into something more revealing. The relationship took on a more intimate hue. Dan, a man unencumbered by the ties of family, was refreshingly candid about his feelings for me. "I enjoy talking with you, Chloe," he remarked as we savored dessert together. "Your intelligence, insight, and unexpected humor shine through, especially for someone immersed in the world of data analysis." For the first time in over a year, laughter bubbled up within me, free from the shadows of betrayal and loss. Our encounters became more frequent, each visit coinciding with his business trips to Chicago. The relationship unfolded gradually, rooted in a profound intellectual connection and a foundation of mutual respect, contrasting sharply with the tempestuous romance I had known with Noah. Dan never rushed me, sensing instinctively that I was still mending from previous hurts. 8 months into my journey at Vertex, I was met with surprising news. The agency was to be acquired by Innovate Media, Dan's own company. While the merger promised broader horizons for all at Vertex, it also added layers of complexity to my emerging connection. My relationship with Dan took a pivotal turn when he reached out to share the news of the acquisition. His initial concern was my feelings regarding the potential conflict of interest. "Your career matters to me," he expressed. "If this makes you uncomfortable in any way, we can pause the personal side of our relationship." His thoughtfulness resonated with me profoundly. After reflecting and consulting with my therapist, I concluded that our relationship was worth the effort to navigate the professional intricacies. We set clear boundaries at work. He would never be directly engaged in my performance evaluations or discussions regarding compensation, and we would maintain transparency with pertinent colleagues about our connection. The merger infused fresh energy and resources into our projects, and I discovered myself flourishing in the enhanced role I was granted as Regional Strategy Director. At 29, I was attaining professional success that exceeded my wildest expectations from just a year prior. More significantly, I was starting to acknowledge my own resilience and value in a manner I had never experienced before. The challenging betrayal that had once felt like the shattering of my existence ultimately propelled me toward a life that was more genuine and satisfying than the one I had left behind. As time unfolded, my relationship with Dan transformed from tentative beginnings into something profoundly significant. In contrast to my tempestuous affair with Noah, this bond developed intentionally, with both of us aware of my previous scars and his obligations as the leader of the company where I was now employed. We upheld professional boundaries within the workplace, yet beyond those walls, we slowly lowered our defenses. Dan, a decade and a half my senior, possessed a wisdom that stemmed from lived experiences rather than mere years. He had forged Innovate Media from its inception, navigating the tumultuous waters of the dot-com crash and the 2008 recession with a blend of creativity and resilience. His marriage had concluded amicably 7 years prior, a mutual recognition of their divergent paths, and he spoke of her with a sense of respect rather than resentment. It was this depth of emotional understanding that captivated me most profoundly. One evening, as we strolled along the lakefront after dinner, Dan broached the subject of Noah for the first time. Until that moment, he had honored my hesitation to delve into my past relationship, allowing me to reveal details at my own pace. "You don't have to tell me anything you're not comfortable with," he said, his voice soft and reassuring. "But I care about you, Chloe. I want to understand what shaped you." There was something in the sincerity of his gaze that dismantled the last of my defenses. Perched on a bench with the water stretching before us, I found myself sharing everything: the engagement, Maya's methodical unraveling of my relationship, the wedding that would never be, and the lingering ache that followed. I anticipated pity in his gaze, yet what I encountered was a profound understanding and a burgeoning anger on my behalf. "Your sister's choices reflect her insecurities, not your value," he remarked as I concluded my tale. "And Noah, any man who won't even listen to your perspective isn't worthy of your sorrow." His words soothed the scars that had remained tender for far too long. For the first time, I shared my history with someone without the weight of shame, defined by it as our personal relationship deepened. Our professional lives flourished as well. The merger between Vertex and Innovate created exciting opportunities, and I found myself leading increasingly significant projects. Dan never showed me favoritism. In fact, he held me to higher standards than others, pushing me to develop skills I hadn't known I possessed. 6 months into the merger, he approached me with a challenging proposition. We were developing a new division focused on predictive consumer behavior using AI, he explained during a private meeting in his office. "I think you should lead this initiative." The responsibility loomed large. I would be assembling a team from the ground up, crafting methodologies that were yet to be conceived in the industry, and possibly transforming our clients' perspectives on digital marketing. When I voiced my uncertainties about my qualifications, Dan simply shook his head. "This isn't about our relationship, Chloe. I've observed your work, your thought process. You discern patterns that others overlook. The team requires your perspective." After much thought, I embraced the opportunity. The ensuing weeks unfolded in a flurry of hiring choices, strategic discussions, and late nights crafting our methodology. Amidst this chaos, Dan upheld a professional demeanor at work, while offering personal encouragement during our private moments. We discovered a harmony that enabled both facets of our relationship to thrive without discord. As I grew more settled in my new position, my financial circumstances transformed significantly. The blend of my salary at the director level, coupled with the equity I received from the merger, enabled me to acquire a breathtaking condominium in Lincoln Park, boasting panoramic views of the city and the lake. On the day I finalized the purchase, Dan arrived with champagne to toast the occasion. As we stood on the balcony, watching the sunset unfold, it struck me how profoundly my life had transformed in merely 18 months. Through casual exchanges with mutual friends and fleeting glimpses on social media, I discovered that Maya's path was veering in a different direction. Ethan had been part of a gathering at his place, a chance to unwind and celebrate the small victories amidst the chaos. The atmosphere was light, a stark contrast to the weight of Maya's struggles that lingered in my mind. I reminded myself that I had chosen to rise above the negativity, to focus on my own path rather than be drawn into the shadows of her bitterness. As laughter filled the room, I felt a sense of relief, a momentary escape from the burdens that had been weighing heavily on my heart. Dinner at Alinea, one of Chicago's most exclusive restaurants. Throughout the meal, he seemed slightly nervous, unusual for someone normally so composed. As dessert arrived, he reached across the table to take my hand. "When we met, I wasn't looking for a relationship," he said quietly. "I was focused on the business, on the next acquisition or innovation." "But you've changed that, Chloe. You've changed me." My heart raced as he continued. I know your past makes you cautious about commitment, and I respect that. I'm not seeking a response tonight, yet I want to express my love for you. When the time is right, I envision us building a life together. It may not have been a conventional proposal, but that only added to its perfection. Dan recognized that given my past experiences, I required the freedom to make choices on my own terms. That night, I didn't provide him with an answer. However, in the weeks that ensued, I began to picture a future with him, not filled with anxiety or doubt, but rather with a serene confidence. 3 months later, during a weekend getaway to Napa Valley, I shared my thoughts. Dan, I was prepared. His reply was typical of his nature. He was contemplative, sincere, and prioritized my happiness over his own desires. "Are you certain?" he asked, searching my eyes. "There's no timeline here, Chloe. I'm not going anywhere." In that instant, I felt an unwavering conviction that this was the truth. Unlike my relationship with Noah, which had been partially constructed to meet societal norms, my bond with Dan was rooted in mutual respect, aligned values, and authenticity. In a moment of quiet reflection, we chose to embrace our engagement in solitude, cherishing the bond we had forged before unveiling it to the outside world. It was during this intimate period that an unexpected email from my mother arrived. "Maya's been asking about you," she wrote, expressing a desire to mend fences before the holidays. After conferring with Dan and my therapist, I resolved to uphold the boundaries I had set. My reply was courteous yet resolute. "I'm not prepared for that conversation just yet. I trust you can appreciate my stance." As the holidays drew near with a mix of anticipation and unease, Dan and I had chosen to share our engagement at a New Year's Eve gathering he was organizing for our closest friends and important colleagues. 2 weeks prior to the celebration, a message from Jessica arrived. "Did you see Maya's Facebook post? Ethan lost his job. They're selling their house." I hadn't looked at my sister's social media in months, preserving the emotional distance that had been vital for my recovery. Jessica's message awakened a tangle of emotions, evoking sympathy for their plight. Difficulties intertwined with a sense of trepidation regarding Maya's possible response to my newfound joy. The serendipitous alignment of their struggles and my rise was not lost on me, yet I chose to reject the notion of karma or retribution. Life unfolded in shades far more intricate than such straightforward tales. Our engagement announcement was embraced with authentic delight by our friends and colleagues. As images from the celebration made their rounds on social media, I realized it was merely a question of time before Maya discovered this fresh chapter in my existence. What I had not foreseen was how swiftly she sought to weave herself back into my narrative. The new year unfolded with a whirlwind of events as Dan and I embarked on the journey of planning our wedding, while also initiating an ambitious expansion of our AI consumer prediction platform. We settled on a fall ceremony, intimate yet refined at a vineyard in Sonoma, California, that resonated deeply with us. Following our engagement in Napa, in stark contrast to my earlier wedding plans with Noah, which had been influenced by tradition and external expectations, every choice made by Dan and me mirrored our true preferences and values. We opted to collaborate with a distinguished wedding planner who grasped our wish for elegance, devoid of extravagance, making the entire process surprisingly effortless compared to my past experiences. 3 weeks after our engagement was announced, a text message arrived from a number I had long since deleted, yet one I recognized immediately. "Maya, congratulations on your engagement. I'd love to talk when you have time." The message lingered unanswered on my phone for days as I pondered my response. A part of me yearned to dismiss it entirely, clinging to the clean break that had facilitated my healing. Yet another part was intrigued by what she might desire after nearly 2 years of silence. After conferring with my therapist, I resolved to reply with a succinct acknowledgement. "Thank you, I'm not ready for a conversation yet." Her reply arrived without delay. I understand. I just want you to know I'm happy for you. Dan seems like an amazing man. The compliment struck me as bait, and I didn't take it. As our wedding plans unfolded, whispers traveled through family networks regarding the magnitude and venue of the occasion, despite our efforts to maintain a degree of secrecy. The wedding scene in Chicago was intimate, and our planner had a reputation for orchestrating lavish affairs. Somehow, details about the exclusive vineyard, the Michelin-starred catering, and Dan's considerable fortune found their way back to Maya. One Sunday afternoon, as Dan and I sifted through potential invitation designs in our condo, my phone rang, displaying my parents' number. My mother's voice came through, tinged with uncertainty. "Chloe, I'm not sure how to tell you this, but Maya showed up at our house. Today, she was visibly shaken." My mother recounted how Maya had broken down in tears, expressing that she could no longer endure the arrangement. "She confessed to feeling jealous of you and Noah." My mother added, "She says she wants to make amends. Before your wedding, I experienced a familiar tightness in my chest, a physical embodiment of my anxiety. Maya had always had the power to evoke something deep within me." Dan, perceptive as ever, took my hand and gave it a gentle squeeze, a quiet assurance that I wasn't facing this alone. After I ended the call, promising to consider her words, I turned to Dan. "She's reaching out now because she's aware of the life we're creating," I said, the truth becoming clearer with each word. "It's not about mending fences. It's about access." Dan nodded, his expression contemplative. "What do you want to do?" The question was simple yet profound. What did I truly want? Not what should I do or what was expected of me. It was a perspective that still felt refreshingly new. After careful consideration, I agreed to meet Maya at a cafe near my office, a public place where I could leave easily if necessary. Dan offered to be nearby, but I declined. "This is something I need to handle myself," I told him. The day of our meeting arrived with a mix of spring rain and pale sunshine that mirrored my conflicted emotions. I arrived early, choosing a table near the exit, and ordered a green tea to calm my nerves. When Maya entered, I was immediately taken aback by her transformation. She appeared more slender, dark circles shadowing her eyes, and there was a newfound intensity in her movements that hadn't existed before. She caught sight of me and approached with a tentative air, as if gauging her reception. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, settling into the chair opposite me. "You look amazing, C." The familiar nickname sent a shiver down my spine. I acknowledged her with a nod, but refrained from returning the compliment. After placing her coffee order, Maya began what felt like a well-rehearsed monologue. "Over the past year, I've found myself deep in contemplation, engaging in sessions with a therapist." She hesitated, perhaps anticipating a nod of understanding from me. I maintained a calm facade. "What transpired with Noah?" "I was in a dark space. Ethan and I were struggling, and witnessing your happiness only intensified my feelings." She paused, inhaling deeply. "Jealousy had always been a companion of mine. Even in our childhood, you seemed to navigate life with such grace." I remained quiet, allowing her confession to linger in the silence that enveloped us. This was not an apology. It was an explanation, a justification that revolved around her emotions instead of recognizing the damage she had inflicted. "I know I can't undo what happened," she continued. "But when I heard about your engagement to Dan, I realized I couldn't bear not being part of your life anymore. He seems wonderful, successful." There it was, the subtle hint of calculation I had anticipated. Success in Maya's realm had always been the ultimate currency. "What exactly are you hoping for here, Maya?" I inquired, my voice steady, my directness unwavering. It seemed to unsettle her. I long for us to be sisters once more. I miss you dearly. With your wedding approaching, I gently but firmly distanced myself. The wedding will be intimate, just a few close friends and family. Her expression dimmed a bit. Naturally, I understand. Yet perhaps afterward, we could begin to mend what was broken. Ethan has been struggling at work, and the girls are yearning for their Aunt Chloe. Then there was the other aspect of the situation, what she sought from me beyond just emotional healing. The old Chloe would have felt a sense of duty to assist, would have overlooked the manipulation, prioritizing family harmony above all else, but I had transformed into someone different. I appreciate your outreach, I replied, selecting my words with precision. However, trust, once shattered, cannot simply mend itself for the sake of convenience. You methodically dismantled my relationship with Noah, disseminated falsehoods about me to our friends and family, and observed my pain without ever owning up to your actions. Maya's eyes brimmed with tears. I know, and I'm sorry. I truly am. I was wrong. The word felt practiced, devoid of true remorse. I believe you regret what transpired, I replied. Yet I doubt you grasp the complete ramifications of your actions. It's not solely about Noah or the wedding. It's about coming to terms with the fact that my own sister viewed my joy as something to dismantle instead of honor. For the first time, Maya appeared truly moved by my words. What can I do? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. How can I make it right? I pondered the question with great deliberation. The reality was that I neither desired nor required anything from her. The life I had constructed in the wake of her betrayal emerged as a testament to resilience, stronger, more genuine, and infinitely more rewarding than what I had once known. I believe this isn't a matter that can be resolved with a mere conversation or a fleeting gesture. I expressed to her, true transformation requires time and unwavering commitment. I need to see that you've genuinely changed before I can consider letting you back into my life. As our meeting concluded, an unexpected sense of peace washed over me. I confronted my sister devoid of anger or resentment, establishing boundaries rooted in self-respect rather than resentment. The following week, I made a decision that surprised even me. After discussing it with Dan, I sent Maya and Ethan an invitation to our wedding, accompanied by a gift card for $500 to a high-end department store and a note. I hope you find the happiness you're looking for with sincere wishes for your future, Chloe. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was a release, a way of acknowledging our shared history while maintaining the boundaries that protected my well-being. The wedding day. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the Sonoma vineyard. In the bridal suite, I found solace among my dearest friends and my mother. Unlike before, I was free from the weight of anxiety that had shadowed my past engagement. Dan and I had crafted our own vows, heartfelt promises rooted in the deep connection we had nurtured. As I approached him down the aisle, his eyes sparkling with emotion, I felt an unwavering certainty that I was precisely where I was meant to be. The reception unfolded. Jessica drew near, her voice barely above a whisper, as she revealed an unforeseen tidbit. Noah is here, she stated softly. He inquired of the planner whether he might have a moment to converse with you. My astonishment must have been evident on my countenance. It seems that Dan extended an invitation to him. There is a certain essence to closure. Dan had said nothing to me regarding this matter. As I scanned the crowd, my gaze fell upon my former fiancé, positioned uncomfortably by the vineyard entrance, offering a reassuring smile to Dan from across the room. I approached Noah. 2 years had passed, transformed him. His hair had been cropped and the lines on his face had deepened. Congratulations, Chloe, he uttered, his voice laden with feeling. You look beautiful. She said it politely, waiting for him to elaborate on his presence. Dan contacted me last month, he continued. He believed it was essential for me to understand the reality of what transpired. He presented the proof regarding Maya. My breath hitched in my throat as Noah pressed on. I ought to have placed my trust in you. I ought to have taken the time to hear your perspective. The manner in which I concluded matters. Each day has been marked by my regret. Ever since. The apology I had once yearned for now seemed oddly superfluous. I expressed my gratitude with a straightforward response. Hearing it holds great significance for me. We engaged in conversation for a few more minutes, delving into his life, his new relationship, and the shift in his career. The dialogue unfolded with an unexpected ease, devoid of the tension or discomfort I had anticipated. As we said our goodbyes, there was a heartfelt exchange of well wishes from each of us. Eventually, I discovered Dan gazing at the sunset, casting its golden hues over the vineyard. "Why did you invite Noah?" I inquired, intertwining my arm with his. He pivoted with that contemplative look I had grown to value. "Because you deserve to." A year after our wedding, Dan and I found ourselves in a harmonious cadence of life that was both exhilarating and reassuring. We settled into a more spacious residence in the Gold Coast area, conveniently near the office for effortless commutes, yet ample enough to nurture our expanding aspirations. The division dedicated to AI predictions that I had established had become the most rapidly expanding segment of Innovate Media, drawing in clients from Fortune 500 companies and creating our standing as trailblazers in the field. My team grew from a mere 3 individuals to a robust 27, and I recently ascended to the role of Executive Vice President, securing my place on the company's leadership board. Professional success transformed into a source of enjoyment for me, rather than a pursuit aimed at validating my worth. A nuanced yet significant change in viewpoint. On a personal note, Dan and I had initiated conversations about the prospect of starting a family, an exchange that ignited a sense of exhilaration instead of unease. At 30, I sensed a readiness to embrace this new adventure alongside a partner who truly embraced my entire being, rather than merely the roles I could play for him. Our bond flourished through a foundation of mutual respect, transparent dialogue, and a collective aspiration for what lies ahead. While we marked our first anniversary with a weekend getaway to Lake Geneva, I found myself contemplating the path that had brought me here. The betrayal that once appeared to signal the end of my existence had, in truth, become the spark for a remarkable metamorphosis. I had lost a relationship, yet discovered my true self in the process. Procedure. My personal life had settled into a lovely harmony. Yet, my connection with Maya continued to be intricate. Following our wedding, she occasionally reached out, often during family gatherings or when she sought assistance. Her financial circumstances had progressively worsened, following Ethan's acceptance of a role that offered considerably reduced compensation, leading them to relocate to a more modest home in a less esteemed neighborhood. While I kept a courteous distance, I found myself unable to overlook the similarities between the present situation, and my reflections on the time following the cancellation of my wedding. Facing the daunting challenge of reconstructing life in the aftermath of profound loss, Maya's struggles stemmed primarily from her own choices. The repercussions of the decisions she and Ethan had taken stood in stark contrast to the outcomes of my own, which had been marred by intentional undermining. Observing her ongoing struggle evoked a whirlwind of complex emotions. During Thanksgiving dinner at my parents' home, where both Maya and I had consented to be present for our mother's sake, I noticed how withdrawn she had transformed. The self-assured, occasionally haughty sister I once knew was now substituted by someone who appeared to be in a constant state of anxiety, flinching at sudden sounds and offering apologies for the most trivial of errors. As the wine glass toppled, spilling its crimson contents across the tablecloth, a wave of emotion threatened to overwhelm her, and she fought back the urge to cry. "It's fine, Maya," my mother assured her. It is merely a tablecloth, yet I discern the expression in my sister's gaze, the dread of scrutiny, the anticipation of censure. I had donned that very expression not too long ago myself. As all individuals, as I made my way to the living room for coffee, I discovered Maya in the kitchen, diligently blotting the stain with club soda. "It comes out better with salt first," I remarked, extending my hand toward the shaker. Then I added club soda. She glanced up, taken aback by my method. "Thank you," she whispered, taking the salt I extended to her. We toiled together in quietude for a brief moment before her voice broke the stillness once more. "Your company is thriving remarkably." I came across the article in Business Insider and nodded, recognizing the compliment without further comment. "It appears that you and Dan share a certain connection, joyful." Her observation lacked any sharpness, embodying a serene evaluation. "Indeed, we are." The quiet hung in the air, heavy with untold stories and unresolved pain. At last, Maya laid her cloth aside and turned to confront me completely. "Chloe, I understand that you have no obligation to me, and I recognize that my apologies cannot mend the hurt I caused. Nevertheless, I am genuinely sorry." The language was straightforward, clear, and devoid of any embellishments or rationalizations. For the first time, I felt an authentic sense of regret instead of mere theatrics. I examined her features, observing the fresh creases framing her gaze, the tautness residing in her shoulders. "What prompted you to take that action?" I inquired softly, the question that had lingered within me for more than 2 years. She was candid in her comprehension. After a long pause, she responded, "I believed happiness was something unchanging. I was convinced that your abundance signified my scarcity." I was taken aback by the sincerity of her response. And now she smiled with a touch of sadness. "It has become clear to me that such a mindset inevitably leads to discontent, regardless of one's possessions." It wasn't a total reconciliation, yet it was possibly the most genuine conversation we had ever experienced. In the weeks that followed Thanksgiving, I engaged in a conversation about the interaction with Dr. Martinez, my therapist. "Are you looking to mend the bond with your sister?" she inquired. I found myself pondering the very same question. The dynamic we once shared has shifted. I responded thoughtfully, reflecting on the competition that defined us and my tendency to shrink myself to quell her jealousy. Yet, perhaps there lies the potential for something novel to emerge. Dr. Martinez regarded the situation with a contemplative nod. "How might that appear for you?" The question lingered in my mind as the festive season drew near. Dan and I had envisioned a festive gathering for our dearest friends and chosen colleagues. After considerable contemplation, I chose to offer a gesture of peace. I reached out to Maya directly, marking our first phone conversation in more than 2 years, and extended an invitation to her and Ethan to join us. I clarified that it isn't a family gathering. The company consists primarily of business associates and friends. However, I considered that it might be beneficial for you to witness this aspect of my existence. Once upon a time, there existed a— She hesitated before replying, her voice laden with an unforeseen depth of feeling. "I would appreciate that. Thank you, Chloe." The evening of the party unfolded as delicate snowflakes danced through the air over Chicago, bestowing upon the city an enchanting allure. Our abode underwent a delightful metamorphosis, adorned with understated festive embellishments. The catering staff glided through the crowd, offering champagne and hors d'oeuvres, creating an ambiance that was both celebratory and refined. Upon Maya and Ethan's arrival, I welcomed them with the same warmth I offered to all our guests, maintaining a balance of professionalism and hospitality. As the evening unfolded, I took note of Maya's engagements with my colleagues and acquaintances. She appeared truly engaged in their discussions, posing insightful questions and paying close attention to their replies. She exhibited none of the fierce competitiveness I had grown accustomed to witnessing in social settings. At one moment, I caught a glimpse of her conversing with Vicky, who had journeyed from New York solely for the occasion. Chloe is truly exceptional. My sister spoke of how she reconstructed her life after all that had transpired. Her resilience commands my admiration beyond what words can convey. The words uttered in her unaware moments held a significance far greater than any apology she had ever extended to me face to face. As the evening drew to a close and the last of the guests trickled out, Maya made her way to me in the kitchen, where I was engaged in conversation with the catering manager. "This was lovely," she said when we were alone. "We appreciate your inclusion of us." I nodded in acknowledgement of her gratitude. In fact, she pressed on with a hint of uncertainty. "I seek your guidance on a matter of professional importance." This came as a surprise. Maya had never pursued my thoughts on any subject matter, consistently presenting herself as the individual endowed with greater wisdom or expertise. She expressed her contemplation of a career change. "The realm of real estate no longer resonates with me, and I find myself drawn to the world of digital marketing, a field that has piqued my interest for some time now." The request lingered in the air, unmistakable yet unvoiced. She yearned for an introduction, perhaps even a role at Innovate. Previously, I would have readily concurred, driven by a desire to appease and uphold harmony. At this moment, I reflected deeply on what healthy boundaries might resemble in this circumstance. At last, I instructed, "Please send me your resume." I cannot guarantee outcomes, yet I would be delighted to examine it and recommend some resources to help you develop the necessary skills. It wasn't a clear dismissal, yet it also lacked the effortless entry she may have anticipated. She must acquire any opportunity through genuine qualifications rather than relying on familial ties. The expression of authentic gratitude on her face indicated that she comprehended and embraced these terms. As Dan and I readied ourselves for slumber that evening, I confided the engagement with him. "Do you believe I'm erring by opening the door even just a little?" I inquired. He pondered the question with his usual depth of reflection. "Trust is restored gradually, one small step at a time." He concluded, "You're providing her an opportunity to demonstrate her growth while maintaining necessary boundaries." That strikes me as prudent. In the ensuing months, Maya forwarded her resume, accompanied by inquiries regarding courses and certifications that could facilitate her shift into digital marketing. Our exchanges persisted. Her focus remains predominantly on her career development, rather than on the immediate restoration of the closeness we once shared. It was a novel kind of relationship, founded on mutual respect instead of obligation or rivalry. The most profound lesson I gleaned from my journey through betrayal and into the realm of rebuilding was that genuine freedom does not stem from revenge or lingering resentment. Instead, it arises from crafting a life that is so authentic and fulfilling that the wounds of the past lose their grip on my identity. The progress I had made wasn't centered around the idea of marrying someone more affluent than my sister's husband or attaining higher professional accomplishments. Despite the events that transpired, it was ultimately about cultivating the bravery to establish boundaries, the insight to select relationships that uplifted rather than undermined me, and the self-esteem to recognize that I deserved nothing short of the best. On the second anniversary of what should have been my wedding to Noah, It struck me that I had navigated the whole day without a single thought of it until that very instant. The date had been indelibly marked in my mind as a testament to sorrow and treachery. It was merely another day in a life brimming with intention and authentic bonds. It may well have been the most significant metamorphosis of all. It wasn't that I had created something superior to what I had lost. Rather, I had transformed into a person who no longer measured her worth by what had been stripped away. I had transformed into a woman who crafted her own joy, established her own limits, and embraced authenticity, unbothered by the expectations or judgments of others. And in that moment, I understood, was the genuine treasure that had rose from the remnants of treachery. Not a more perfect union or a more prosperous profession, but a resilient, truer self who would never again be shattered by the envy or deceit of others. Wow, what a journey, right? Chloe's story is such a powerful reminder that even our closest relationships can hold hidden complexities, and that sometimes the biggest betrayals can lead to the most profound self-discoveries. What really stuck with me is how Chloe found her strength not in revenge, but in setting boundaries and building a life true to herself. It's inspiring to see her move from a place of hurt and confusion to one of genuine peace and success, both personally and professionally. And that moment with Noah at the wedding? Talk about closure. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt the sting of betrayal from someone you held in the highest regard? In what ways did you find the strength to recover and reconstruct your life following that experience? Share your tales in the comments section below. I'd love to read them and connect with your journeys. If this narrative struck a chord with you, kindly show your appreciation with a thumbs up and think about subscribing for additional insights on conquering life's hurdles and discovering your true self journey. Keep in mind that what may seem like a conclusion can often be the start of something far more exquisite than you ever envisioned. Thanks for tuning in to my narrative, and I hope you find the strength to establish boundaries that safeguard your tranquility and foster relationships that respect your essence.